Welcome to Theology of Christian Schooling. My name is Dr. Jeff Horner. I will be your instructor for this course. You may email me at Jeffrey, Jeffrey, .Horner, Horner, @point.edu. Welcome to week 3 for Theology of Christian Schooling. This week we'll be looking at two different topics: primary and secondary education, and a theology of imitation. Let's begin. As we discuss a theology for primary and secondary education, we are recognizing that there are two different stages in students' education. Generally, kindergarten through 12th grade are considered education for students or children in this country. Primary education varies depending on who you're talking to, from either kindergarten through 6th grade or kindergarten through 8th grade. Some people begin secondary education as early as 6th grade, and some people started at 9th grade. Again, these are not hard and fast categories. For example, the state of Georgia categorizes middle grades education as its own separate area of study. All of these, though, recognize something that is important to know, which is called human development. And this is a recognition that people develop over the course of their lifespan. Human development can discuss many things, including intellectual development, cognitive development, social development, moral development, faith development, and physical development. It is the acknowledgement that kindergarten students have different learning needs than a student who is in the 12th grade. As we see this, you would not teach a kindergartner the same way you would teach a 10th grader or an 8th grader or a 5th grader. Kindergarten students, first grade, secondary, primary grades have different educational needs. And so as we think through this, we need to look at the biblical foundations for understanding the differences between teaching children versus teaching adolescents versus teaching adults. One question I want to make sure we look at is, how does the Bible address development of individuals? What types of information are age appropriate when it comes to theological learning? How much can you explain the concept of the Trinity to a kindergartner? And how much does a Trinitarian knowledge come into play as you grow into later adolescence? How do different ages of children learn? These concepts all matter because they all explain and inform how we do education for primary and secondary grades. What I'm terming the theology of imitation is really an important question for us to consider with regard to schooling in Christian contexts. Christian schools, in many cases, resemble secular, non-Christian models. And theology of imitation is asking, to what extent can Christian schools replicate the public school system? And to what extent should Christian schools replicate the public school system? Are they to imitate everything exactly? Should Christian schools have the exact same curriculum except with a Christian informed bias? Or is it important to be very distinctly different in many of the ways that we do things in primary and secondary education? I call upon you this week to discuss, to think about, how much does the fact that we are Christians mean that we can or cannot accept secular models of schooling? We have now reached the end of the lessons for week 3. I encourage you guys to charitably and considerately discuss these topics in the forums. I look forward to reading what you have to write, and I encourage you to reflect and think together on these topics. We have a lot to learn from one another. Continue to work towards our final paper due in week 7. Please do not delay your work on those things, even in the midst of doing work for other classes. We have almost reached the halfway point, and I look forward to continuing our journey together.